Hey, this is Professor Homa. Welcome to CSC230, and this is a little exercise we're going to do called CSS Intro 3 Lists. And we've already done some list exercises, and this is more like a lesson kind of exercise. It's kind of deviating from our EX4 that we've been working on and our pages that we've been working on in brackets. And I'm just going to have you work a little bit in something called Codepen. I introduced this in another class, and I think it's kind of a neat area to work in. We've worked in W3 schools, but this area called Codepen, or this software, is kind of designed for kind of playing around. They call it a playground and sandbox, however you want to refer to it, and it will help us, since we're going to be working with external CSS, we're going to be working on separating our HTML from our CSS, and this will kind of help us do that. Plus it'll give us a place to kind of experiment. So I just want to introduce this. Again, you're going to go to codepen.io is the website, and you can sign up for an account, or you don't have to sign up for an account. I have an account. I have two accounts with two different emails. I have HTML here. It's just HTML code. And also be aware that you don't need to have, your doc type and your head tags and all that. You could just put little snippets of HTML code in here, which is nice. So we're just focusing on these lists that we did in EX4. There's basically just a paragraph, and there's a ordered list, which is numbered, and an unordered list, which is a bullet list. Remember, this is the OL, this is the UL. So, we've been working with that already. And I'm going to do something else with lists here. We're going to work with some CSS, and we'll just type it in. But what I wanted to show you is working with CSS, also some child inheritance kind of properties that we're going to work with in here. So I'll just kind of do this as a little lesson. So again, you're familiar with this. Remember, this is the OL, this is the UL. And what I want to do first is I'll just write a declaration down here. I'll just type it in. I'll target all the LIs. Since these are all LIs, regardless if they're in an OL or UL, they're all LIs. So I'm going to target all the LIs. So I just have to type LI in CSS. And then I'll do a curly brace, and it'll do two at once. And when I hit return, it'll indent it for me. And what I'll do is I'll just change the font of all these list items right now. So I'll go font family, and I'll use a colon and a space, and then I'll put in Tahoma, and I'll use Verdania as a second choice, and then I'll use Arial as a third choice, and then I'll use sans-serif, all lowercase, with a semicolon as my fourth choice, the default. And you can see what happened. It changes it immediately. You don't have to run, you don't have to save. It displays things right away, which is nice. Now, you can see these are all kind of, cramped together. If I want to put a little space in these lines, I could adjust line height, but what I'm going to do, and we did this before, is I'm going to do a padding bottom, and I'll put a colon here, and let's just say I'll do 6 pixels for now, and I'll put a semicolon. And you can see it does it already. You might not even notice if you weren't looking, because I was typing, I didn't notice, but it spread it out just a little bit with 6 pixels right now. So that targets, remember, when you write in CSS declaration, it targets all the LIs right now. So all the LIs have that font, and all the LIs have 6 pixels after, or kind of a padding below is kind of what it does right now, or padding bottom. So that's the way it works right now, and we're familiar with doing that, so that's not a big deal. But let's say you just wanted to target these, and you wanted to do something different here. Let's just say we wanted to put more space after those. Well, how would you target just that list? Well, you could do a couple things. One of the things we could do that I wanted to point out is you could basically show the parent. You could target the parent, because if you look at your HTML, these LIs are basically the child of the UL, whereas these LIs are the child of the OL. So they're different. They have different parents, come from a different family. So that's the way kind of HTML, the document object model, works. We talk about an inheritance, and that's why we like to indent things so we know what's inside of what. So these are children of OL, and these are children of UL. So we're going to target the children of UL. And how do we do that? In CSS, we're going to do this. We're going to say UL, and then we're going to do a space and put LI. This means that space is very important. It means that that LI is inside, or is a child of the UL. So it's only targeting the LIs that are the children of UL. So if I put my braces here and I do something different, let's say I say padding bottom and I put 12 pixels. You can see what happened here. It put more space here because it's only targeting the LIs that are in the UL. It's ignoring the ones that are up here. Now it did keep in mind, it did keep the same font, and it did keep the original. It kind of what happened here, just so you know, this padding bottom, since it's the same kind of declaration as this one, it overrode that. But it kept the ones that are still there, so it won't override anything till you write something different. So for example, if I wanted these green, if I did color, remember it's not font color, it's just color. If I did color green, and I'll just use green instead of the hex right now. And if I did color green, you could see it made these green. Now it's hard to see, maybe I'll make them bold too. So I'll do font weight, I'll do a colon, and I'll just put bold. And make sure I put my semicolon. So now they're bold. So you can see what happened here. I'm targeting the children of UL, the LIs of UL, and I adjusted the padding bottom, and I adjusted the color, so it made the color green, and it made the font weight bold. So that's kind of the way the children work. So it inherits, this one targets all LIs, so all LIs have the Tahoma font, or whatever font is showing up right now, and all LIs have padding bottom until that gets changed. And here it got changed, so now it went to 12 pixels. Now because the default is black, it overrode that with green, and because the default wasn't bold, it overrode that with bold, so it just targeted that. Now just to show you some things here, what if I want to do something different? I'm gonna take this color green out for now, and I'll just leave the padding difference there. Let's say I just wanted to make the one that says smell of cut grass. Let's say I just wanted to make that one green. I wanted to make it's basically the second LI of the UL. How would I make that one green? Well, there's a couple ways we can do that, and we talked about this, so I'll show you a couple ways. One of the ways we could do that is we could put a class inside the particular LI that we want. I could go to this second class here, or the second line item, and I could go right inside the tag, and I could say class equals, and you have to put it in quotes. And IDs and classes work both like this. And you can name it whatever you want. I'll call it green. Let's say the class is green. And I'm saying li class equals green. And remember, this is not a style. I'm not styling it internally. I'm just giving it a name, or a special name that's a class. And we could use these for multiple times. So I could give any one of these the same class name if I wanted to. Class names can be used multiple times. IDs are supposed to only be used once, so I'll show you that too. But okay, so I gave it a name. Now that doesn't do anything. That's just identifying that one. It's a special little name. It's like giving it a little kind of nickname there. But I didn't target anything yet. So let's say I wanted to go here and target that particular line. Now the way I would have to do that is I would go li.green, and then I would put my curly braces, and then I would put my whatever kind of properties and values I wanted here. So I'll put a space in here, and I'll call it green, and it made that one green. And let me make it bold too, just so you can see it a little better. That's font weight, and now it made that bold. Now, but just by attaching a class, giving that LI a class name down here, it actually applied that to that. Now, keep in mind, if I put a space here, because you might say, well, isn't that a child? Shouldn't I have a space? No, you shouldn't. If I put a space here, it won't work. That's because green, the class, is not a child. It's not a separate element. It's not a child element. It's the name of the LI. So they go together. So names of things have to go together, whether it's an ID or whether it's a class, they have to go together. So when it's a name of it, you don't put a space. When it's a child, you do put a space. So that's li.green. Now, I'm just curious, if I take this away, it'll still work without the first name because there's only one class on the page. That's the only class on the page. But I'd recommend in the beginning kind of putting where it's coming from first. So if you name that li green with a class name, keep them together. That just helps you organize things a little better. So space will not work there. There it will work. Here, obviously you wouldn't want to put these together because that wouldn't even mean anything. So you want to make sure you keep those separate. So that's li green. Now, that's one way to target individual areas. Another thing you could do, I don't know, here's just a weird thing. Let's just say I wanted to make the word outside green. Just this word. I want to put this green. I don't know why you'd want to, but let's say you did. I'm just gonna show you that because I already have a class called green. So I could go here and do, it's something, if you just want to do one word, you have to do something called a span. So I would have to do span class equals. You'd still have to say that, you'd still have to give it that class name, that's basically of identifying it, and then the way span works is you wrap span around whatever you're doing. So it has, spans have an opening and closing. It's like highlighting a word. So if I put span class equals green, and then over here I can close that, it should put the word outside in green, except the problem is this is saying li. So this is one case where it's only targeting the li with the name of green. If I take that away, you can see what it'll do now, because now it's just saying, hey, wherever that class is being used, make it green. So if you're going to use green multiple times, then don't attach that li to it, because here I'm not using it in an li. I mean, I'm using it in an li, but really the green is actually attached to a span. So you could make it separate. If you needed to, you could do this. If I put the li there and you were like, wow, it's not working, you could do something like this. You could basically copy this and paste this here and have two in a row. And then how would I target that one? Well, I could do this. I could do that, or I could say span.green. That'll work too, because that's targeting the name of that. Now, obviously what would be easier? Well, then don't be so specific. If, in this case, let me stretch this up a little bit. In this case, then why put all these specific things? If you just have a class that's green and you're going to use it for all kinds of things, then don't specify exactly what it's used for. Then just get rid of this. Then don't have a separate declaration for that. So that means all the classes are green, no matter what you're using them for LIs or spans or whatever, then they're all going to get green. And since we are talking about classes, I do want to briefly touch on IDs, but let me do that in the next video. Let me take a break here and we'll continue with IDs.